Hello, everyone. I'm Miriam Mulkewich, physiotherapist at Fit for Life Physiotherapy, and I'm talking with Paig Stafford, registered dietitian today, about nutrition for bone health. I think this is such an important topic as so many people are learning to manage osteoporosis, prevent osteoporosis, dealing with bone stress injuries, all of those kinds of things. So we're going to get some information from Paig. So Paig is working with us at the clinic and available to be seen. So let's dive right in, Paig.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So everyone knows that calcium is good for bones, right? We all know that, right? But what are some really good sources for calcium in our diet?
Yeah, for sure. So calcium can come from both dairy and non-dairy foods. So for example, 1 cup of milk or fortified soy milk, that provides around 300 milligrams of calcium. Some other useful sources include things like yogurt, cheese, calcium-set tofu, canned salmon or sardines with the soft bones, edamame, white beans. So there's a lot of different foods to choose from, which is really great. And for context, most adults need around 1,000 milligrams of calcium per day. Women who are over the age of 51 need about 1,200 milligrams per day. And usually I encourage people to include a few reliable calcium sources across the day rather than trying to get it all from one food or from one supplement. So yeah, with things like packaged foods, it's good to check the nutrition label because calcium levels can kind of vary between brands. And when you looking at that nutrition facts table, it's always good to look at the daily value. And anything that's 5% is means that there's less of that nutrient, and anything 15% or more means that there's a lot. So it's always good to check those labels.
Okay, well that's good to know those percentages for sure. And what else should we be paying attention to for bone health that maybe doesn't get talked about as much?
Yeah, so calcium's not the only part of bone health for sure. Vitamin D actually helps our bodies absorb calcium. Protein forms part of the structure of bone and supports muscles that help with balance and help us reduce the chance of falling, which is really important. Also, getting enough food overall matters as well. So if you're regularly under fueling, the body can actually work against both bone and muscle health. And also magnesium and vitamin K also help play a role in bone metabolism. But most people can get them through a very varied diet. So vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. So yeah, I would definitely focus on calcium, vitamin D, protein, and eating enough overall, rather than giving somebody a long list of supplements.
Right. So it sounds like if we're eating a good varied diet with, some fruits and vegetables, all of what, the food guide recommends, that we should get what we need. Is that accurate?
Mhm.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's kind of looking at the overall health instead of just focusing on that calcium for
Right.
sure.
Right. So are supplements necessary for bone health, or can people get what they need from food? And how do you help people kind of make that decision of to use the supplement or not?
Yeah, so I usually try to start with food, especially for calcium. I find a lot of people get enough calcium more than they realize. So I would first estimate how much calcium someone gets from their usual snacks or meals. I do a diet recall, do a little estimate. And if they're already meeting their needs, then adding more calcium isn't going to give an extra benefit. But if there is a gap and it's difficult to fill that with food, then a supplement can definitely be used. But yeah, I wouldn't automatically just give everybody the same amounts. But with vitamin D, it's actually a little different because there's fewer food sources. And especially here in Canada, it's hard to get that from the sunlight. So Health Canada actually advises adults age 51 or over to take 400 international units of vitamin D each day. And yeah, so it really depends on the person, your age, and many different factors. So supplements can help, but they're not always necessary.
So it sounds like though that vitamin D supplement, particularly as we get older, is important.
Yeah, I would say almost for everybody in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really
Okay.
important.
And are there foods that work against sort of calcium absorption or bone health if we have them in excess? Like I don't know, caffeine or alcohol, or I'm just taking a stab at that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I will preface by saying, I don't want anyone listening to feel afraid of a certain food or anything. When I'm talking about these things like sodium or caffeine, it's kind of, out of moderation. So higher sodium intake can increase the amount of calcium that we lose in our urine. But research connecting sodium directly with fractures is actually mixed right now. But a useful target for most adults is to stay below 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. And a lot of sodium can come from packaged foods, restaurants, and highly processed foods. Coffee and tea can still fit in your diet for sure. Health Canada recommends staying below 400 milligrams of caffeine per day for most adults. So an average 8-ounce cup of brewed coffee that has around 135 milligrams. And black or green tea usually has about 30 to 50 milligrams. But alcohol definitely deserves more attention. Is because drinking 3 or more alcoholic drinks per day, that is recognized as a fracture risk factor. But overall, again, looking at the overall pattern, is caffeine replacing your meals? Is it affecting your sleep? Is your alcohol intake high? And for sodium, it's that highly processed foods, but moderation is definitely key. So I wouldn't worry about having a cup of coffee or having a salty snack or anything.
Right. So it's not like, okay, stay away from these entirely, just in moderation and be reasonable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And what's the biggest myth that you hear about dairy, calcium, and bone health, out on social media and so on?
I think one of the biggest myths is that you have to eat dairy to have strong bones. Dairy can definitely be a convenient source because milk here is fortified with vitamin D in Canada to help absorb the calcium. But dairy is definitely not the only way that you can meet your needs. You could do fortified soy, oats. I think I mentioned calcium set tofu before, the canned salmon and the sardines with bones, some beans and greens, they can all contribute to calcium. But yeah, the main thing is to know where your calcium is coming from and then including those in your diet regularly. But for most people who enjoy dairy and tolerate it, you can definitely do that. That's totally fine. But those who can't tolerate it or they can't eat it, there's definitely ways to work around where you don't need dairy for calcium.
Right. Okay, great. Now, and you mentioned earlier that, protein is also important for bone health, and we hear tons about protein lately, about muscle health and so on. How does protein play a role in bone health?
For sure, yeah. So protein's not only for muscles. Bones actually contain protein framework that helps give it structure and flexibility. So stronger bones can help us support our balance, our mobility, and our everyday movements, which can help lower the chance of falling, which is really important for our bones. So yeah, the goal is adequate protein rather than consuming very high amounts because like calcium, there's no real benefit to eating more. And like our first podcast that we did together, it's really focusing on, are you having protein at each meal? Because I do find that sometimes breakfast or lunch can be a little light depending on people's schedules. But that might look like adding in eggs, yogurt, fish, chicken, tofu, lentils, depending on the preference. But yeah, protein definitely supports bone structure, and it helps maintain our muscles, and it helps us prevent falls.
Okay. So something very important to be monitoring in our diet, making sure that we're getting enough.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone's concerned about their bone density or osteoporosis, whether they have it or they're worried about getting it because of family history or whatnot, what are 2 or 3 sort of realistic changes that they can make, today or this week to benefit their bone health in the future?
Yeah, for sure. I would first start with identifying where your calcium is coming from, and then trying to add in calcium rich food to at least 2 or 3 occasions, especially if you're kind of noticing, maybe at breakfast I'm not getting enough. So that could be yogurt at breakfast, that could be adding milk or soy to your smoothie. That could be adding canned salmon with bones at dinner. But yeah, it all depends on your preference as well. You want to make sure you're eating something that you enjoy and you're looking forward to. Second, I would look at adding a protein source to your meals, especially if they tend to be light, like I mentioned before. Breakfast is always a great place to kind of see if you're getting that protein. Are you getting eggs, egg whites, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese? Nut butters are good if you don't have any allergies, like peanut or almond butter. And thirdly, if you're over 50, I would definitely check that you're taking the recommended 400 international units of vitamin D every day, because that's going to help absorb that calcium. And also talking with your pharmacist or doctor to kind of see, sometimes people are recommended a higher amount if they are seeing a specialist. So always just following your healthcare team and what they recommend.
Okay, great. That's great advice. You mentioned earlier about some of the things about bone health is making sure that you're eating enough, right? That just that we're fueling ourselves, we're not under fueling. So somebody who is trying to manage weight or lose weight, how do you recommend sort of that they manage that sort of being able to, still achieve some weight loss, but not compromising their bone health in the process?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really important to focus less on a number on the scale, because that can kind of deter us from healthier choices, and focusing more on protecting your bone and your muscle throughout the weight loss process. So things like aggressive restriction of food, skipping meals, cutting out whole food groups, that can actually be not great for the body, because you want to be building up your bones, you want to be eating enough, nourishing your body. And you could actually be losing some bone and muscle through extreme weight loss or very quick weight loss. So I would actually encourage regular meals, getting enough protein, of course, getting enough calcium that you enjoy, making sure you're getting that vitamin D, and also doing some strength building activities that's suited to you and your health. If somebody already has osteoporosis, they've experienced fractures before, or they have unintentional weight loss, I would definitely encourage more individualized support than trying to follow like a generic diet online. But yeah, the goal is definitely to avoid improving one health marker at the expense of bone and muscle and energy and your quality of life. So if someone wants to change their weight, then I would definitely, think about your overall health as well. We're not just trying to chase a number, you're trying to, do it in a nice, gradual, healthier way, for sure.
Right. And probably that gradual way is also more sustainable in the long run.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 Sometimes, yeah, when you do the extreme diets, the weight will come back as soon as you're off the diet. So if you're doing changes that you can do for the rest of your life, then it's going to be maintained a lot
Right.
easier.
Right. So I mean, there's lots of information here. There's lots of information online and can be overwhelming, and people are searching around to sort of find what they need. So how, what would you suggest for people? Where's the best place to start if they want to make changes?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if anyone's feeling overwhelmed, definitely start with one meal or one snack that you're already eating most days, and you can check how much calcium is in that. And I would encourage you to keep eating that. Also, looking at areas where maybe it's a little less calcium, because like I said before, getting it throughout the day is a lot better. So I would just say take things one step at a time. Like if you want to make a change, go for a really small goal, because that's a lot less overwhelming than thinking like, oh my God, I'm going to have to change my whole diet. And also, yeah, focusing on that protein as well, making sure that you're feeling fuller during the day. Um, and you can always talk to your doctor, your pharmacist, if you ever want to do a checkup to kind of check out blood work wise where you're at, or if you have any questions. And of course, as a registered dietitian, if you ever feel completely lost, I can definitely help with that because, yeah, I can help estimate everything and just kind of make those really small goals. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, definitely take it one step at a time. You don't have to change everything all at once. And bone health is definitely built through small choices that where you repeat. You don't have to have a perfect diet or a long list of supplements. So just start with something that feels realistic and then you can build from there.
And it sounds like then for many people who are overwhelmed, working with somebody like yourself as a registered dietitian is also a great place to start to just help sort through, the information that you're hearing about and what actually makes sense for them and their body and their health history, right? Everybody's got
Yeah,
a different health history that we need to consider. So,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
I think a lot of people see things online and they kind of get advice, but it's very generalized. So, yeah, when you work with a registered dietitian, it's very personalized and evidence-based. So,
Yes. Yeah. So Paige can be found at our clinic. She offers both in-person and virtual appointments. So if you do want to book with Paige to get started on making some changes in your health journey, give the clinic a call or go to our website and there is an online booking link. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I'm happy to help. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for joining me. This was really great information to share with our community. So thank you for joining us, and we will hopefully chat again another time about another topic.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you again another time.